Hello friends, how are you? In my last video of literary terms, we discussed about few literary terms, important literary terms like aesthetic, aestheticism, allusion, ballad, canon, dialectic and discourse. In continuation of the same series, today we shall be discussing some more literary terms. But before starting the video, I would request you all, if you haven't subscribed my channel, please do subscribe my channel so that I would bring more interesting videos in front of you. Literary criticism will likely persist as a critical activity for as long as books are written or works produced that some chose to regard as literature. In the 21st century, the interrelationship between digital and material culture and the effect of this relationship on reading practices is becoming an important question for literary critics to consider. What is the future of book? What is the future of reading? Such questions are intimately bound up with the future of the planet. Our first literary term which we are going to study is dithyramb. Dithyramb is a Greek choric hymn with mime describing the adventures of Dionysius, the god of wine and fertility. Dithyrambic has more general connotations of wild song or verse. The term may also refer to any poem in an inspired irregular strain or to a statement or a piece of writing in an exalted impassioned style, usually in praise of a particular subject. Modern examples include Friedrich Nietzsche's Dithyrambs of Dionysius, written in 1891, Gabriel Enosio's Alcyone, written in 1904. Second term is encomium. Encomium is a formal dedication or expression of praise. Encomium is a speech or piece of writing that praises someone or something highly. Encomium comes from a Latin word meaning to celebrate. It's a speech, poem, or other text written in praise of a specific person or thing. Encomia are usually written in very elevated language and praise their object in very strong terms. Examples are Encomium to Helen by Gorgias. The poem is dedicated to Helen of Troy, who was ultimately ideal of feminine beauty. Second term is essay. We are all very familiar with this word. From our childhood days, we are told to write, read, understand essay. So let's try to understand in easy words what is an essay. Essay is a genre of writing, usually short and in prose, which is often used in literary criticism and which addresses itself to a particular topic or variety of topics. It derives from the French verb essayer, to attempt. The word was coined by the French writer Michel de Montaigne, 1533 to 92, in his Essays, which was written in 1580. The Essays of Francis Bacon was influential in disseminating the genre in English. Types of essays. There are various types of essays. Let us discuss few types of essays. First is narrative essays. Its type of approach is by replying to questions as where, when, why, how, who, and what. Second is descriptive essays. Its type of approach is by responding to senses of sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. Third is argumentative essays. It is based on arguments on historical, personal, social, economic, religious, and psychological factors. Fourth type of essay is topical or reflective essays. It is based on logics on historical, personal, social, economic, political, or domestic issues like education, poverty, democracy, etc. Fifth type is expository essays. Essays of this type are an exposition of subjects like how things work. It is an elucidation of the operating process that is in the form of instructions. They require a logical step-by-step approach of presentation. Examples of such essays would be how to organize a birthday party, how to prepare a particular dish, etc. Next term is hermeneutic, concerning interpretation, particularly with regard to scripture or literary texts. Hermeneutics is all about interpretation in fields of study such as interpreting plays or novels, but also in day-to-day life when we interpret actions of our friends or try to figure out what a job means in the context of our life. Hermeneutics is the art of understanding and of making oneself understood. It goes beyond mere logical analysis and general interpretative principles. The word comes from Greek word hermenium, meaning to utter, to explain, to translate. I hope you would have understood what we mean by hermeneutic. Next term is heroic couplet. Heroic couplet is a common metrical form in English poetry, consisting of rhymed decasyllables usually written in iambic pentameter. Heroic couplet is a pair of rhymed lines with iambic pentameter. Thus, this form of poetry was popularized and highly developed by the neoclassical poets, especially Alexander Pope. Chaucer was the first literary figure to compose verse using heroic couplets, but the use of heroic couplets did not become widespread until the 17th century. Heroic couplets are also characterized by classical diction and seriousness of the classical poetry, along with the expression of a complete thought. Next term is heteronormativity, a view of sexuality that falsely universalizes heterosexual experience. Heteronormativity is what we can say that it discusses about sex and gender. Social theorist Michael Warner coined the term heteronormativity in 1993 to refer the heterosexual culture's interpretations of itself as a natural, inevitable structure of society. Heteronormativity enforces not only strict norms about sexuality but also reinforces strict gender roles within society. For example, the model that women should stay at home with children while men work is upheld by a belief that men and women have specific jobs to do in our society. This is also related to what is known as a gender binary, whereby individuals are categorized into either male or female. Heteronormativity is related to biological explanations for human sexuality. Biological understandings of gender and sexuality insist that one's identification as male or female is fixed and natural. Next term is humanism. Humanism is a philosophical outlook that prioritizes human as against divine matters, tending to regard humans as essentially rational, responsible, and progressive beings. American Humanist Association calls humanism as a progressive philosophy of life that without theism or other supernatural beliefs affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater God. Humanism is a rational philosophy informed by science, inspired by art, and motivated by compassion. Affirming the dignity of each human being, it supports maximization of individual liberty and opportunity. Next term is metaphor. The application of metaphor is the name or descriptive phrase to an object to which it is imaginatively rather than literally applicable. For example, the wine-dark sea in Homer's Odyssey. In easy words, a metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. A metaphor states that one thing is another thing. It equates those two things not because they actually are the same, but for the sake of comparison or symbolism. Metaphors are used in poetry, literature, and any time someone wants to add some color to their language. Next important term is mimesis. It is taken from the Greek for imitation, as in mime, which also carries the sense of literary representation. The word mimesis is derived from the ancient Greek meaning imitation or representation. Mimesis is a term used in philosophy and literary criticism. Mimesis describes the process of imitation or mimicry through which artists portray and interpret the world. Mimesis is not a literary device or technique, but rather a way of thinking about a work of art. Next term is neoclassicism. It is a literary or artistic movement seeking to bring about the revival of classical style and forms. In England, the dates of this fall roughly between 1660 and 1780. The literature of this period is sometimes referred to as Augustan literature. The characteristics of neoclassical art include a concentration on Greek and Roman mythology and history for subjects. A prioritization of the heroic male needs somewhat dramatic lighting and a rather clean style, with hard edges, bright primary colors in painting, smooth, highly polished marble in sculpture. The movement sought to return to the classical beauty and magnificence of the ancient Greece and Roman Empire. Neoclassical works, therefore, are serious, unemotional, and heroic. These writers emphasized even more than their Renaissance predecessors the classical ideas of order and rational control. Next important term is objectivism. Objectivism is a philosophical position that states the cosmos is determined by laws of causality that can be observed and delineated through observation. Human actions are not free because they are determined by these external laws. The name objectivism derives from the idea that human knowledge and values are objective. The term objectivism is a philosophy designed by Ayn Rand, a Russian-American writer. The name derives from the idea that human knowledge and values are objective. The four tenets of objectivism are reality, reason, self-interest, and capitalism. Next term is over. Over is the works of an author or artist regarded collectively or as a whole. In other words, a substantial body of work constituting the life work of a writer, an artist, or a composer. It's a fancy French word. We can consider it to mean a complete collection of whatever it is, be it writing, songs, albums, photos, etc. Example is the complete over of Mozart. Next term is phenomenology, the philosophical study of the structures of experience and consciousness. Phenomenology is a philosophy of experience. For phenomenology, the ultimate source of meaning and value is the lived experience of human beings. Phenomenological theories of literature regarded works of art as mediators between the consciousness of the author and the reader, or as attempts to disclose aspects of the being of humans and their worlds. The modern founder of phenomenology is German philosopher Edmund Husserl, who sought to make philosophy a rigorous science by returning its attention to the things themselves. Next term is relativism. Relativism is a philosophical stance which holds that all truths are relative to the individual and are thus not absolute. Relativism is the belief that there is no absolute truth, only the truths that a particular individual or culture happen to believe. If you believe in relativism, then you think different people can have different views about what moral and immoral. Relativism makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Einstein, in particular, caused a lot of problems with his theory of relativity that stated that even time and space were relative concepts depending on where an observer happened to be. Example is freedom from slavery in America is not based on relativism. It's based on the belief that the dignity of human beings is a universal truth. Next term is subaltern. Subaltern in post-colonial studies is a concept which refers to social groups that are excluded from the hegemonic power structures of colony and metropole. In particular, the work of the Subaltern Studies Group describes this term subaltern. A subaltern is someone with a low ranking in a social, political, or other hierarchy. It can also mean someone who has been marginalized or oppressed. Subalterns occupy entry-level jobs or occupy a lower rank of corporate ladder. But the term is also used to describe someone who has no political or economic power, such as a poor person living under a dictatorship. Subaltern is an emotive, elastic, and decisive term and critical concept pertaining to issues of domination and subordination. Next term is teleology. Teleology is the explanation of phenomena with reference to the purpose or end served rather than the cause. Teleology, from the Greek word telos, meaning purpose or end, is the study of goals, ends, purposes, and destinies. If destinies exist, humans and other organisms have purposes and goals that drive their behavior. Example can be taken from artifacts like knives and TV seem to have purposes built into them by humans. So many philosophers figure that only conscious beings and their creations can have teleology. Next term is textuality. Textuality is interpretation characterized by strict adherence to the text, also the quality of written as opposed to spoken language. Textuality refers to the textness of a given object. So to understand textuality, you have to understand what critics mean when they talk about text. Simply put, a text is any object that contains meaning and can be read or interpreted. A book or poem is a text, of course, but so too are movies, symphonies, advertisements, a shard of pottery, clothing. Almost anything can be thought of as a text, in that almost anything can be interpreted and have meaning drawn out of it. In this sense, being a text has less to do with what a thing is than with how humans interact with it. Textuality then is a kind of shorthand way of referring to all the qualities that go into making a text and a way of referring to the potential for a text to be interpreted. This has to do with the physical qualities of the object, what it is, the context of the object, where you found it, its relationship to the other text, and its readability and the various meanings such interpretation is able to draw out of the text. The term textuality comes from linguistics, the study of language and communication. One way that humans communicate is through text. You can think of the word text as being roughly equatable with message. Texts come in many formats, the example books, magazines, email, e-notes, post, music, sign language, etc. When you refer to these different forms of text, you are referring to their textuality. In other words, textuality explains what makes a book rather than a magazine. The idea of textuality comes along with the assumption that the form in which a message comes to you will influence your interpretation of the message. The textuality of a richly illustrated hardcover book is different than that of an e-book file that you download into your phone or computer. The words are same, but the textuality is different. For many people, different textualities also mean different reading experiences. We may encounter this idea more and more as online or digital reading becomes more prevalent and hard copy materials have to fight for survival. Thus, our series of literary terms comes to an end. I hope you like this series. If you do so, please subscribe my channel. Thank you. Have a nice day.